Hey, everybody, it's Alex Marcotullio from the Wildcat Alley podcast. Proud to tell you that we are Underdog Fantasy's newest partner. And on top of that, I have better news. They're currently running a promo for all new users. And the easiest way to get in on this special is downloading their app using our code WCA24. Even if you've already registered but haven't deposited any money, you can still use this promo. So what are you waiting for? Come join the Wildcat Alley podcast and get on Underdog Fantasy. Welcome back, everybody, to the Wildcat Alley podcast. Alex Marcotullio.
Juice Thompson.
And we obviously have a special guest here, director of Northwestern's NIL, TrueNU, Jacob Schmidt. Really important guest for the program today. Jacob, welcome. We're looking forward to hearing about all things TrueNU, NIL, really just understand the landscape of how this has changed college athletics. So really excited to have you on the pod, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, Al, Juice, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. All right, let's get it going. TrueNU, NIL. I mean, please break it down for us. Let all the fans, everyone out there know what exactly TrueNU is doing. And obviously we see the work that you're doing with the student athletes, but from your perspective and everything, let us know about TrueNU and the NIL space.
Yeah, Juice, thanks. No, I think most folks watching this podcast understand that college athletics has changed night and day in the last 31 months, right? NIL became a thing July of 21, and the landscape has shifted entirely since then. TrueNU formed roughly 15 months ago in an effort to help our programs compete. I mean, that's the long and short of it, right? We're doing it our way, the Northwestern way. We're a tax-exempt nonprofit. We partner with local charities, and then we're able to compensate our athletes to go help work for those charities, right? So their time, their talent, their influence, their social platform, they're doing real work with now over 30 unique charity partners, and in return, we're able to compensate them. So it's a cool way to do NIL, right? We're proud of our approach, this idea of using NIL for good, allowing athletes from all 19 of our programs to benefit financially from this, but also philanthropically, right? This is more than just a transaction for our athletes. And then our charity partners absolutely love working with, Northwestern athletes, with TrueNU. So it's been a win-win, but certainly we've got a lot of work to do, right? As we sort of enter year 2 of our existence, we're looking to make major strides here in terms of support and what this looks like to allow Chris Collins and David Braun specifically to really compete in this new landscape.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, Jacob, you and I have had, numerous discussions about this, but really, I'd love for you to enlighten the folks on what's on the roadmap, right? Like you said, this is ever evolving, this is ever changing. What does TrueNU look like, 12 months down the road, and potentially, what's maybe a 5-year plan for NIL and TrueNU specifically?
Yeah, Alex, it's a really good question. And
it's probably a loaded question. Yeah,
well, a little bit, right? Frankly, I don't have a great answer. I think what we've seen and felt really over the last 31 months since NIL became a thing is that this is a moving target, right? This is ever changing. Every single day, something new happens across the country that changes the outlook, changes the future of what NIL will most likely look like. In the short term, right? I think for most fans paying attention, right, they're seeing court cases. They're seeing, most recently, Virginia and Tennessee sue the NCAA over some NIL legislation, right? You're seeing Dartmouth basketball being allowed to unionize, right, if they so vote and choose to do here in a couple months. So the landscape has shifted every single day. Right, the president of the NCAA comes out 3 months ago and basically admits that he knows that this has turned into pay for play. Right, I think we all realize that. Right, we're trying to do it by the rules. We're trying to do it by the book. make sure that we're not putting anybody in a bad predicament, relative to eligibility or getting our coaches in trouble. But at the end of the day, NIL is absolutely about return on investment, right? Supporters want to know that the athletes you're investing in are making a difference on the court or on the field or on the pitch, right? You name it. And so the NCAA knows it. This is changing every single day, right? And so, long-winded answer to try to answer your question, Al, is I don't know where we'll be in 12 months, right? Yeah. I think there's a realistic future here where collectives like TrueNU are a part of the universities, right? I think there's a lot of reasons why that makes sense, right? Because at some point, I think most will agree that the schools are going to be doing NIL directly with their athletes. The reality of what's currently happening is third parties like TrueNU, right? There's 200 of us across the country. We're third parties, right? We're separate from the institutions, but at the end of the day, we're charged with supporting the athletes and the programs in this new way, right? To give, again, our coaches and our programs a chance to compete with their peers. Frankly, not sustainable, right? Frankly, kind of risky, right? If you're the head coach and you're relying on a group of donors to help you build and retain a roster, I mean, that gets a little dicey, right? So I think it's going to keep changing. I think 9 to 12 months from now, we're either under the umbrella of Northwestern or we're continuing to function, but there will be new guardrails. There will be some real rules put in place here as these courts and the NCAA and the D1 Council truly wrap their arms around what the heck has happened over the last 31 months and how we can move forward to protect both the institutions, but frankly, more importantly, the athletes.
Wow. That's big. That's great, Jacob.
Sure.
We appreciate, that's a great way to put it, great perspective on it. And just kind of go back. I know you mentioned, the football coach and basketball coach. So I had a question, regarding the basketball team now. They're in a crucial moment of the season. They're getting ready for conference tournament, NCAA tournament, which, we know they're going to make it. How is it, organizing events for those guys now with, the season picking up, they have classes and everything? How exactly are you guys maneuvering everything with that to get the student athletes, especially the basketball team now? How are they getting their NIL stuff with them preparing for, this tough stretch of the season? Are they still able to do things all the time, or is it kind of every other week, or what's that process like, and even getting them to get these opportunities?
Yeah, Juice, the sort of the workflow, right, of how we function is it's different for each program, right? And I think you allude to it, right? The basketball team is about to hit the most important stretch of their season. So our we is TrueNU approaching our athletes with a bunch of opportunities to go support charity partners while they're frankly should be focused on beating Michigan, beating Maryland, right? Beating Iowa and Minnesota down the stretch. The short answer is no, right? We do our best to do the work and the heavy lifting with our athletes, frankly, in the off season, right? Or on off days, right? There are some opportunities here that we have planned. We just did one with our hoops team a couple weeks ago, and we have one coming up in early March on a Sunday. That's an off day. We'll grab the guys for a few hours and get them involved with a charity partner of ours, so that one, they're able to continue to feel the love a little bit, right? They're able to use really the stature of the program, of their names, of their platform, and really the season they're having to help elevate the missions of our partners. So that's really how we function and why we function. But we're cognizant, right? We want our guys to rest, to rehab, to watch film, right? This is about winning, right? Yeah. Period. Yeah. So we're not overloading these kids. So the vast majority of our work is done in the off season, but we'll sprinkle some good stuff in throughout the season. And, and some of our guys, some contracts are set up a little bit differently, right? We've got some guys on longer term deals. And so we're able to do some different work with those individuals, but the vast majority is kind of event by event, and we approach it in a very careful and strategic way.
Definitely. I'm sure it helps you play
That's
the
awesome.
Northwestern.
I know you talked about the Northwestern way. That sounds directly like the Northwestern way, and I know we're going to keep it that way. Shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about recruiting. Obviously, this is a critical aspect of recruiting, especially when it comes to the basketball and football programs. as Northwestern athletics is on the rise, and really trying to infiltrate the space with TrueNU, how do you guys affect recruiting? Where is your place in the process when it comes to getting kids to commit or signing them to their national letters of intent?
Yeah, Al, really good question, and a hot topic across the country, right?
Yeah.
NIL is absolutely a major piece of the recruiting puzzle, right? This, as I alluded to, this is about talent acquisition and talent retention, period, right? So where we fit in is it's a pretty strategic sort of and nuanced piece of the puzzle, right? Technically, collectives like us are not allowed to directly communicate with athletes who are not current student athletes at an institution, right? So I am not on phone calls with prospects or families. I'm not even in the building when kids are on visits, right? Technically, I'm a donor and a booster, just like the two of you, and so we can't have any direct influence, let's call it, on the recruiting process, right? Now, we all know that not everybody's following those rules, right? And even us, right? We don't communicate, but what we are able to do is use the coaches to sell our mission and our message, right? I mean, certainly Chris Collins knows how we function. He knows that his basketball team has benefited greatly, right? So he's able to communicate those types of things to prospects, to kids in the transfer portal, to let them know, look, we have major support, right? And we can talk about a Boo Buie example, right? We hang our hat on Boo coming back for his 5th year here. We were a major piece of that puzzle and proud of it, right? That's why we need to exist, to make sure that this program is successful, that Welsh Ryan is sold out every night, that we're going back to the tourney. This is about ROI. This is about winning. So, the coaches are able to communicate these things with the prospects, but we have no direct involvement in the recruiting process. Now, I alluded to this earlier, but the state of Virginia and the state of Tennessee currently suing the NCAA over this exact topic, right? The ability, frankly, for prospects to know their true worth, their true NIL value, right? Currently, since we can't get involved, it's a very sort of shadow game. And so they're suing the NCAA to basically say, look, we should be able to communicate these things directly with prospects, right? We should be able to, frankly, use NIL to give kids making a major decision for their life the full equation, right? They're missing a pretty key variable here. And they have to rely on indirect sources to make that decision. So there's a reality. It could happen any day where a judge files an injunction here, and now TrueNU, everything I just said, forget about it. Now TrueNU is sitting at the table with Chris Collins when it transfers on a visit in April, and we're able to put a contract in front of them, right? So this is changing every day, right? And I think that's the theme is we keep watching and learning and listening and adapting. We've got legal counsel, obviously, who helps make decisions with us. They actually represent a couple other collectives across the country too. So we're well in tune with how this is changing. But similar to you two, I don't know, right? I don't know if that's going to change in 2 days, 2 months, or never. So it's an incredibly important piece, Al, and we're happy to be here to help us compete in this world. But we follow the rules. We really do.
Good. It's good to hear, man. I know you just mentioned legal counsel. So my next question was, are the guys, being educated on the financial literacy part of it, component of it? A lot of them are making, a lot of money at a young age now. And they got to pay taxes and everything. So I'm sure the way Northwestern does things. And TrueNU, can you kind of touch base on that? Because that's something I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, the taxes and everything that come with it.
For sure, Juice. Yeah, I mean, sort of the other stuff, right? All those other things you talk about are really important for these athletes to learn. Because to your point, this is taxable income. I mean, you've got athletes across the country making 6, even 7 figures, right? What do they do with it, right? How do you pay taxes? How do I invest it? How do I protect it, right? I mean, all of a sudden, this young age bracket has a bunch of disposable income. Well, we know what happens when young guys go pro, right? It doesn't end up well too often. So the education piece is critical, right? TrueNU specifically is not engaged in the education side of this, right? Our focus, frankly, is the compensation piece, right? We're trying to provide these opportunities to the kids, allow them to make this money, help our programs compete. Where the education side comes in is frankly on the institution, right? So Northwestern does a nice job of educating these athletes on all things NIL, right? We talked about some of it, but tax law, budgeting, right? How to build a brand, right? Do they need an agent, right? So they're able to guide and help. Financial literacy is absolutely the most important piece here. And so Northwestern, they partner with a group called Altius Sports Partners, which they're across the country. They work on probably 30 campuses. They are the in-house NIL department. Their job, frankly, educate 500 athletes on what this stuff means, right? Help them navigate this space because it's absolutely probably the most important part, but often the most forgotten about.
Okay. Wow. Appreciate that, Jake.
Good question, Juice. I have one. So you mentioned TrueNU being able to reach out to all 19 programs within Northwestern. Obviously, the revenue driving sports, football, basketball, are leading the charge. How are you getting the rest of the athletes within the programs involved, and what type of impact does the success of a football and basketball season have on some of the non-revenue driving sports within Northwestern?
Yeah. When we formed, call it 15 months ago, right? We approached NIL in a different way than most, right? Certainly the philanthropic approach is a little bit different. There's plenty of us across the country doing it this way. But the thing that really makes us stand out is that we absolutely want to do this for all of our programs, right? All 19. And I mentioned it, but in our first year last year, we accomplished that, right? We did NIL with athletes from all 19 of our programs. There are very few collectives across the country that can say that. And frankly, most don't care, right? I mean, to your point, the revenue drivers here, football and basketball, on a lot of campuses, those are the only two sports that matter, right? And so now we understand that those two sports pay the bills, but we also understand that we have incredible athletes, even better coaches who are representing the other 17 sports on our campus. You look at, I believe it's 8-time national champion lacrosse program. You look at a field hockey program that was national champs 2 years ago and was in the championship game this past season again. You look at a softball program who, Kate and Carol Drohan might be the best coaches on our campus, and they were in the World Series again a couple of years ago, made it to the super regional final last year. I was actually just in Florida with them last week because we lost a close one to LSU, but those programs matter, right? They matter. And so we wanted to show the Northwestern community that we want to invest in them too. And while the basketball fan maybe doesn't understand, NIL matters to softball. NIL matters to lacrosse, right? This is something that matters to men's tennis, which most people have no clue about. But 31 months of this, right, we've learned a ton. And the impact this is having on our programs, the ability to recruit and retain and compete, it's paramount. So we're proud to say that we've supported those 19 programs. We need to grow that support, right? That's a big goal of ours here in 24 is to grow that even more. But it's a key component for those programs to be able to compete long term as well.
Nice. Okay.
Awesome. Is there anything the conference has done? I know this is typically singular to the school itself, but is there anything the Big Ten in general, since we're on a Big Ten network and podcast here, is there anything that the conference has done with TrueNU specifically to help gain traction or give you guidance on how to deliver to these student athletes?
Yeah, Al, to be honest, not really, right? I think it's still such a new space. I think there's a lot of rules around it. I think the conference, sort of like all of us, sort of learning and waiting and watching and talking, right? Certainly the commissioner is paying great attention to what is happening, working with leaders on campuses across the conference and the country to try to figure out how do we evolve? what should college athletics look like moving forward? But no, the conference is really hands off in terms of working with collectives, right? This NIL space in general. They need to be careful, and same with our schools, right? I mean, a lot of schools have some really nice alignment, and we're continuing to work through some stuff with Northwestern. But you see athletic directors and coaches in press conferences or on websites or on social, explaining what NIL is and frankly promoting and endorsing collectives and the need to support these groups to their alumni base, right? This is the new way to support college athletics. And it's hard to wrap our heads around it. And certainly, there's a demographic out there that hates it, doesn't know anything about it, doesn't want to. And so part of my job is to educate, right? And that's where alignment with the institutions is really critical, to give that clarity, right? And to prove, look, when Chris Collins and Dave Braun are at an event, at a dinner, asking for support in NIL, that matters, right? And I think that shows you where the priorities are. So, no, the conference doesn't do much, and that's okay, right? We understand that relationship is a sensitive one.
Got it. That was a good question. That was real good. So yeah, my next one, it wasn't even a question. It was just more so, Jacob, you and I had the conversation, and we were able to, for my foundation, you sent, a lot of the players there, and just wanted to commend you and just let you know, just like you mentioned earlier, doing things the Northwestern way, TrueNU way. The guys were amazing. And, I actually saw one of the parents from the event that we had back in December. I saw him last night, and he just mentioned again how great the players were. They ended up going to a game last month, and he said some of the players remembered his son. And, that event was for, neurodiverse children. So just to hear that and everything just goes further and just shows, the great work that Northwestern is doing and the work that you're doing, as a director and everything. So just wanted to commend you on that and let you know that they are making an impact. And, I was very grateful to have them be a part of my event.
Appreciate that.
And how cool is that, Juice? That's Northwestern helping Northwestern there. It's like coming full circle, right? I remember, you and I and guys on the team were doing those type of philanthropic efforts, and not being compensated, but we still had that same type of energy and enthusiasm towards it. And now that the players and student athletes have the ability to go to an event like yours, Juice, for your foundation, and number one, get that positive feedback, and two, still be compensated for their time, I think is the best of both worlds, and obviously making a tremendous impact on kids' lives. And it's, trickling down to the parents, and it's just great to hear.
It is.
Yeah, it's really cool. And Juice, I appreciate the sentiment. A quick story to build off that, right? Because not everybody loves this idea of compensating athletes for philanthropic work, right? A story from our men's basketball team last winter. We partnered with a group here in Evanston called FAM, Fellowship of African American Men. I'm sure you guys know them well. They're a youth basketball league here in Evanston for boys and girls, black, white, brown, everything, right? So it started as Fellowship of African American Men, but it has grown since. Anyway, our basketball guys went to a number of practices and actually went to a coach's clinic to help the coaches in this league learn how to coach, right? Work on some drills, what you guys do in Division I basketball that you could potentially use on some youth basketball players. Well, I tell the story because a couple of those events were absolutely TrueNU partnership events, right? Where we're compensating our athletes to go for a few hours at a time and go work with this organization. Well, our kids are so great that there were a couple Saturdays where TrueNU was not involved, but the guys were off, and they knew that the FAM league played their games. Well, we had a couple guys go sit on the end of the bench of some of these teams on a Saturday morning with no compensation behind it, right? No financial reward from TrueNU, but they did it because they had built relationships with those kids and those coaches. So some people don't believe it, but it is more than a transaction, right? We are making an impact on these community partners. They are the true beneficiary here, but these athletes are incredible. And it's a basketball example, but I could give you stories from all 19 of our programs. And so it's the right way to do this. And we're proud of what you just said, Juice, the impact we're having on the kids, on the parents, on the organizations. And so we hope to really grow that impact here in 2024.
Definitely will. You definitely will. So my last question is just, how did we find out more about TrueNU? Website, social media. How do the fans and everyone else that doesn't know everything about TrueNU, how do we get more information out to them?
Yeah, Juice, couple ways, right? So truenu.org, that's our website. You can kind of navigate that to figure out a little bit more about how we function, what we do. And look, to be frank, right, there's a spot on there to donate, right? At the end of the day, we only go as far as our supporters are going to take us. And so would appreciate any support from any listener, and every penny matters. I sincerely mean it. So the website is one, social media is another, right? We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. You can follow us at GoU_TrueNU. My wife came up with that 17 months ago, so kudos to her. I was struggling, man. I was trying to be creative, and also she just says it. I go, "You've been holding out. It's amazing." So follow us there, and then we're about to launch a monthly, call it a newsletter, right? I don't like newsletter because it's not sexy, but it'll be in the inboxes of all of our followers at the beginning of each month here to help them follow along, right? To help tell the story. We'll have features on the impact that we're having on some charity partners. We'll highlight some events that our athletes have been a part of that previous month. So we're really going to try to market and communicate a little bit better this year than we did last. So we're hoping to kind of grow the reach, grow the brand, and just, allow thousands of alums to come along for the ride and hopefully get on board and support us.
I love it. There we go. All right.
Well, awesome. Hopefully this enlightens a lot of our listeners on NIL and, in short, what type of impact it has on the student athletes, and obviously how we can impact these student athletes' lives and help them, through their college experience. And obviously, Jacob, we commend you on doing a tremendous job of guiding this ship in this ever-changing landscape. So continue to do what you're doing, man. You've done a terrific job, and we look forward to taking TrueNU to the moon.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks again for having me, and we'll look forward to seeing you here at Welsh Ryan soon, and hopefully somewhere maybe warmer than, Sacramento wasn't terrible, but maybe a little more convenient this March. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Good. No, appreciate you guys. Go
Cats.
Cats.
Go Cats. There we go.
Thank you, man.